Well, welcome back to the shooting school. Today's video and lesson is going to be on a mental checklist, and there's actually a lot to cover with this. The one thing that separates most shooters on being able to really develop a great stable platform or something that they can actually grow and build on is having a foundation. And we're talking about this in our current podcast series, in which we're talking about laying a solid foundation, or what we consider like the 4 pillars of marksmanship. But a lot of this is based off of this mental checklist that we're going to be talking about right now. So a lot of guys ask, well, what would be the top 3 or the top 4 things that you would talk about if you were to say, hey, these are the biggest things that make the biggest difference in long-range shooting? And I would say having a mental checklist is probably in the top 2, if not the number 1 thing you can do. I mean, if you think about all the areas where having a list or something to go over mentally before you start working on a project and how important it is to keep things in line, think about like a pre-check flight list or a pre-check when pilots are working on and getting ready to fly general aviation aircraft, and how they walk around methodically the airplane, and they have a list there that they go over step by step. Not that they don't know what's on the list, and generally speaking, most of them do, but the list is there to remind them that, hey, these things are really important. And as you keep growing as a shooter, you'll make your own, or you can use ours here. It doesn't matter. But having a list that you can start working with right away, and then as you keep working with it, focusing on the individual parts that are really important, it'll get faster, it'll get more convenient, it'll get easier. There's just a lot of things that happen, but the most important thing is when things aren't going so well, you have that baseline of how things are supposed to go. You have that baseline of things you're to be paying attention to, and a lot of times you'll catch them before they even become a problem, and that's a good place to be. So I attached a PDF of this on the video. You can download it and print it off. I recommend that you either use ours or make your own. You're more than welcome to, but you have to have something to start when you're working with the fundamentals of marksmanship that you're going to go over piece by piece, step by step, every time you shoot, and start embedding these habits of how you approach shooting and the things you have to check while you're getting ready to shoot. Now, the list we have up here on the board, it's not that complicated. If you look, we have the first thing we're going to be looking for is our natural point of aim. Then we've got our firm handshake grip, load the bipod or pull the rifle gently into the shoulder 2 to 3 pounds. Cheek weld, cheek pressure, natural respiratory pause, straight, clean pull of the trigger, then follow through and encircling the bolt. What I would like you to do is print off the PDF file that we've attached to this, and after you've printed it off, I want you to draw a line under number 4, and I want you to draw a line under number 6 on this list. The reason I want you to do that is the first 4 is actually preparing to take the shot, the next 2 are firing the perfect shot, and the last 2 are actually follow through. And so when you start breaking it down to the processes of shooting, it's not a very complicated list, nor is it very long, but it's really, really important. So breaking down the list and talking about it, your natural point of aim is the first thing on the list. And the best way to check to make sure that you're not introducing some type of pressure into the rifle that shouldn't be there, or you're forcing the rifle over onto the target and holding it, is the first way to check natural point of aim is to go through your entire mental checklist in dry fire. And we do that a lot. We do it here at school. I do it personally when I'm practicing, training, working on loads and groups, and all these things that we have to do when we're working with rifles. But sometimes I'll just go through my mental checklist in dry fire once or twice just to get settled down, make sure I'm doing everything right. It's one of those things that we want the round to go where we want it to go, and this is a good safety net to make sure that, okay, calm down a little bit. You watch your crosshairs jump, or that shot wouldn't have went where it was supposed to go, and so you go through, do it again, then you're nice and relaxed, and you finally put the one down that's supposed to be downrange. The other way you can actually check your natural point of aim is just to relax. Go through your entire mental checklist, but when you get to the bottom where you're actually in that natural respiratory pause and you're getting ready to break the trigger, rather than breaking the trigger, just relax all of your handholds. So you're just gonna relax a little bit. And when you do that, your crosshairs should raise straight above the target. And so what we're looking for is, as your crosshairs are rising, that they're not rising and moving up left or rising and moving up right. So we want our crosshairs just to go up straight above the target. That means we're not putting any left or right torque or push or pull on the rifle, trying to keep it on target. The next thing is we've got a firm handshake grip. Now with the firm handshake grip, we've talked about this in the previous episodes here, but just remember, good firm handshake grip. Don't forget about your pinky out a little bit. We've talked about that as well. Then we've got load the bipod or pull the rifle gently into the shoulder. So 2 to 3 pounds of pressure. And this is actually really important. So this would be on my top 10 list, if not on my top 5 list of things that people really do wrong. So we had an optometrist come through a long-range shooting school years past, and he had made the statement that 2 to 3 pounds of pressure is as much pressure as you can put on a human eye before someone squeals in pain. And I asked the gentleman, I said, A, what do you do? B, how do you know that? And C, remind me not to go visit you anytime soon, you know, jokingly. But just to put that in perspective though, 2 to 3 pounds of pressure isn't that much, you know, if you think about what he had said. So one of the things about loading the bipod or pulling the rifle gently into the shoulder, and you can do either or a combination of the two if you're on a slippery surface and you got to pull the rifle rather than push, or, you know, there's lots of areas that you may have to push, pull, or just a combination of the two. But either way, you've got to get about 2 to 3 pounds of pressure into the shoulder. Now we're going to be doing range work here very shortly, in which we're going to show you all of this in real time and show you all of this while we're shooting. But 2 to 3 pounds of pressure into the shoulder is really about preloading the rifle so it behaves the same way under recoil. So a lot of people mistake this for, you know, resisting the rifle or, you know, preparing for impact. One of the things I like to talk about when we're talking about, you know, just loading the pressure into the rear of the rifle and trying to hold that there. When we're loading pressure into the back of the rifle, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the rifle to behave the same way each time to the rear as it's recoiling. This is why when you zero off something like a lead sled or something like that, that when you shoot it naturally the way the rifle wants to perform, your zeros or point of impacts change. This is why our point of impacts change when we tighten up and get all tensed up onto the rifle. We want to have the rifle behaving the same way as it's coming to the rear every single time. And how we do that is by keeping the same amount of pressure on the rear of the rifle. So a rifle has 2 types of recoil, and it comes back in the form of energy and it comes back in velocity. And so different rifles will recoil, you know, fast, like they got that really quick, you know, snap, you know, as they come back and they hit you. Another rifle's like a 300 Win Mag with a very slow burning powder, you know, and a big bullet. They just have this like boom, this really slow push. You know, it's not violent, it's not hitting you real hard. So you've got the energy, but then you also have the velocity, how fast the rifle's coming back and hitting you. And a lot of that has to do with the combination of the caliber, the weight of the rifle, all these other things get involved.